Sheriff, I have you next on the agenda.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to come by and talk about the budget a minute. I want to thank the commissioners for what you did on the budget this fall with the sheriff's office. And also, I'm excited about the pay study that we're going to do that is going to be implemented, I think, in July. I don't know the dates on that.
I refer to Mr. Lamb. I think we're going to start it a whole lot sooner than that.
We can put the RFP out as soon as possible.
Okay.
Okay, so close to that.
Sure.
Also, the 3% raise for the county employees, I know they appreciate that. That will go a long ways. What I wanted to touch on today is where we're at in law enforcement and our deputies' pay. I understand that a pay study is going to be done, and I thank y'all for doing that. We did an in-house pay study and found that we were actually pretty well far behind other agencies in the area. And I understand that the pay study that's going to be enacted, we don't know yet whether it's going to be the immediate job area or if it's going to extend out to other sheriff's offices across the state. I know you did an anecdotal one with, I think, a Mountain County and Halifax, Edgecombe, and some other ones where we were close comparable, but I wanted to bring it up and put it in perspective about where we're at. We have a 27-year jail detention officer, 27 years walking in that jail over there, and he's making $44,000 a year, $44,875 to be exact. That is one of the most difficult places to work. We're short over there at this time, thanks to the county manager that we're using the lap salary money to be able to bring officers in because it's difficult to pay a detention officer and very difficult to keep them. We're going to need 25 more detention officers to man this detention facility when we're up and running with the upgrades that we did. We can't even keep them now. I've been asking to bring their pay up to what a deputy's making so that we're in line of being able to keep people. I'll echo the words the governor used on Friday. He says the public expects and demands professional law enforcement. The expectations of law enforcement is more than it's ever been before, and it is scrutinized more than it's ever been before. So therefore, you've got to have professional law enforcement officers. One of the only ways we can get there is through pay. He said one of his missions is to increase the pay on his state law enforcement officers and enhance their benefit packages. I commend him for that, for he understands. Right here in our home, we've had 2 deputies that lost their life. Then again, last night, we've had another one where it's come about that point where a subject had was trafficking drugs, was called to the interstate, not beyond them, but a citizen calls to say somebody's acting suspicious here, and he has a weapon in a backpack and fails to follow commands, and he's trafficking drugs. His friends in the woods is overdosed. You know, we're in a trying time across America. You can see what's going on, and it's demanding public to have better law enforcement officers, better training. Our training's been cut in half this year, and I'm sure that a lot's going on, but we use asset forfeiture to help in the training because, as I said before, this public demands good law enforcement. To put it in perspective of where we're at, we're about 15% behind City of Rocky Mount in pay. We're about 20% behind overall pay of Wilson. And furthermore, looking at it, a police officer here in Nashville is only making a few $1,000s less than what one of our guys here is making after 14 years. A 10-year deputy here is making $45,336. We don't have any mechanisms in place to be able to move them forward as positions like police officer 1, police officer 2, police officer 3. I've got 4 in the process right now with the highway patrol. We train these people, and it costs about $70,000 to train them, and then we'll lose them. A trooper, after 6 years, is making about $70,000 a year, and the governor's looking at doing a more lucrative package for them. So obviously, your energetic, hardworking young deputies that are very professional are trying to move into those realms. I want to be able to compete with that. Our deputies right now is about $42,000 coming in the door, but there's no mechanisms in place to move them forward. And that's where Rocky Mount and Wilson PD have been able to enhance their pay for their people. As I said earlier, I'm very excited about the 3% pay raise, but it's time that we look at these deputies and reclassify them. We've got to remember, they are the #1 most visible ambassador of Nash County. We cannot not have the most professional law enforcement officer we've been out there. We did savings. I know sometimes I hear it from the commissioner and also from the county manager that we spend a lot of money. We do, but we have spent $500,000 just in buying cars out of asset forfeiture. There's not another county sheriff's office that I know of that has spent that sum of money that don't cost the county anything. I think in the last 2 years, maybe 6 cars has been bought by the county. We've bought $500,000 worth of them. So we're trying to do our ends to be good stewards for the county, but it's my responsibility to stand up here for my men and talk about the pay. Our detention officers need to be raised up to the deputy pay so that we can get officers in here with tenure, send them to training to have the best training that there is out here. I wanted to put that out and just kind of put it on record, but I do want to thank you for the pay study that's coming about and also the 3% for the county. But we had put together a pay study and found that's where we were at, and our pay study was based on the immediate job market. Here's the way I look at that. Where a deputy sheriff can leave here today with the same certification and go to Wilson or drive to Rocky Mount and make more money than that. Or if they go to Wake County, which we did not incorporate, make a whole lot more money. But it's very feasible they can drive to Wake Forest or other places where they're making $55,000, $60,000 walking in the door, $10,000 more. But we have dedicated deputies that work every day, very trained, very professional, and I want to maintain those employees. But I want to thank y'all.
Thank you, Sheriff, for being here this morning. And on behalf of the board, I do appreciate your cooperative spirit in coming and speaking to us. I'll assure you we'll get the pay study done, and the board will look at it very carefully. We hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
I'm not able to make any commitments, as you know, this morning on behalf of the board, but we take you seriously, and I think the thing that's most appreciative is your cooperative spirit that you bring this morning. Thank you.
Well, y'all have been good to the county, and I just want to continue that, but I think we need to be moved forward with the deputies reclassification.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask,
Yes,
what's
sir.
the normal tenure of your detention officer?
We have a very hard time maintaining detention officers over there. They come in, you train them up, they go. I've had them to come one day and look at it and say, this is not for me. We got to remember, most places we can go take a break, and the detention officer can, a state trooper can ride in, he can go to Dunkin' Donuts or go to Starbucks or whatever he wants on his break. Ours can walk outside, but they come back, and you've got to remember, we've got some of the most heinous criminals and in that jail. We've got to have detention officers that are very professional because they're going to be tried all the time. And also, we've got to have the best person that can deal with these type people. I've heard it all over the United States talk about social workers. I was talking to Chief Deck Brown in Raleigh. She said, that's a good thing to do. She says, but just as this mental subject on Friday or last week, whatever day it was, shoots the deputy sheriff outside, and they have to use the patrol car as a shield to go up and get him as he's bleeding to death there. She said, law enforcement, there's a place for it. Well, I can tell you, there's a place for these detention officers too. And during COVID, we didn't get to go home. They didn't get to stand back and wear masks and do things of that nature to protect themselves. They put a mask on and they had to be right there with anything that come before them. They're true heroes. You know, as I was thinking about it yesterday, looking at D-Day and Operation Overlord, look at those true, proud soldiers that stormed that beach in Normandy. We're losing them every day. And we always wish what we could have did more for them. I know I do, and most people do, and there's Nash County people that we lose every day was in World War II. But there's another true hero. It's these law enforcement officers, EMS workers, firefighters that's doing it every day. And the one that we forget a lot is that detention officer. Because if they're not in there doing their job, as we know before, they'll be scaled of fence and be back out there in the community. So to answer your question, we have probably out of 5 that will be hired will make it to that 5-year mark. And, you know, a lot of it goes to training, but you can't train when you're short-staffed. As we're a shift short now, with this new addition of this jail, will be 25 more officers, which is very needed because these people need to be locked down and not in these settings that we discussed before. So hopefully, if we can get better packages, as the governor said, and better pay, that will entice better employees that want to come in and do this. And then, as with the Highway Patrol, I was there for 30 years, you don't have much turnover with Highway Patrol. It's because they get a good pay, they get good equipment, and I would say that most of the troopers that go through school end up staying that 5-year mark, and a lot of them go into retirement. We need to work towards that as county law enforcement and county detention.
Okay, during the pandemic, did you, let's say all of them are essential workers, but did you have say the area that you would say more essential worker that were more direct contact with inmates?
Possibly contaminated people, sure. They were there with these people all the time. We had an outbreak in the jail. We didn't get to go home. We had to stay there. Same thing with our EMS people. I'm going to echo the same words for those. You know, they got to respond to that. Law enforcement, we got to respond to that. In the bad situations, our public service workers have to be there. And that's the reason I'm pushing, you know, but they got to be compensated.
All right. I support your effort in trying to raise the awareness of your detention officers and your sheriff department. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless y'all, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Good to see you this morning.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is